In the last video, we talked about ethical decision making based upon the issue contingent approach. Today, or this time, what we're going to talk about is ethical decision making from a practice-based approach. And this will be a lot more practical for most of you. It's a pretty simplistic approach to how to make ethical decisions. Okay. So we'll take a look at that now. So practice-based, so in this case, again, we have to identify the correct problem to solve. So kind of starting point for most of these is that we have to recognize that there's a problem. We have to recognize there's an issue. In this case, it suggests that while we can recognize that there's a problem, we have to make sure that we accurately identify the correct problem. And sometimes we run into issues where we may not identify the problem correctly. And so how can we solve the problem if we're not identifying what it is quickly? And that's a lot of times where those goals and objectives come from. Because remember, earlier we said a problem is just not being able to not reaching your objectives. And so that's what we're looking at here. To help us identify the problem and also to help us try to solve the problem, we have to make sure that we gather pertinent information. We want to gather as much information as we can to help us make good, sound decisions based upon the problem. So, in this case, you'll be given case studies. One of the jobs that you have to do with your case studies is to kind of research the issue and then try to see what other people have done and try to make good, sound decisions based upon that. One of the things that this one suggests that you do from an ethical standpoint is look to see what the code of conduct relevant to one's profession. Most professions out there have a code of ethics. Here's the like the Hippocratic Oath in medicine, and basically do no harm. You're there to help people. You're there to help everyone, and the idea is that you're not going to do any further harm to them. You're trying to help their situation. Well, what are our codes of ethics out there in our field? And I can post some of them so you can take a look at some of the code of ethics that do exist. A lot of them come through the missions of the organization, the vision of the organization, the values of the organization will help give you an idea of what their code of conduct is, but I'll share some of those with you so you can take a look at them. Examine one's own personal beliefs and values. So look, the individual side of it keeps coming up. Those internal values that we have keep playing a role in helping us make good, sound decisions. But we have to understand what our values are. We have to understand what our beliefs are, what we see as being important. And that comes back to this, again, practice approach, this practice-based approach. And then this one suggests, we're not all in a vacuum. So what we should do is we should contact other people that work in our field. They may have experienced some of the similar situations and some of the issues. I know, I'm sure you did it. I did it. If you have an issue, problem with a teacher or homework, what do? You reach out to friends. Hey, that are in the same situation. What's going on with you? You having the same situation that I am? And they may have had some strategies of how to take care of it, or at least some input that they can share with you that's going to help you. And that's something that you'll do on an industry basis all the time. You'll get your network of friends and professionals and reach out to them. I reach out all the time to my peers and ask questions. How do you handle this particular circumstance, this situation? Been teaching for 25 years and never fails. There's always something new that gets thrown at me that I'm not prepared for at a particular time. So, it's going to happen, whatever field you're in, and just when you think you're comfortable and know it all, there's going to be something new that's thrown at you. So use those peers, use that network that you have to help you. Then it's always good, get an idea of different strategies. List your decision options. We'll talk about this in case studies, but usually there's different options. You can do nothing. and let it ride and see what happens. You can, make changes one way or another. Okay, but list your options that you have and that you can use. I mean, again, the more options usually the better. So list those options that you can come up with that might help this issue and help to solve the problem. Then getting back to looking for a win-win situation, a situation where you can both sides win. If there's sides on an issue, both sides come away feeling a positive. Both sides come away feeling like they're benefiting from the change that's going to take place based upon this ethical decision that you made or that the group made. So looking for those win-win situations. We talked about it in leadership way back when, and we called that collaboration. Where that's what our collaboration is, is trying to create that win-win situation where both sides come away feeling good about solution. Practice-based is we're trying to find those win-win situations. Again, is it probably idealistic? Sure, but that's what we should strive towards. After you've come up with a solution out of that kind of hopefully a win-win, but after you come up with your solution, again, a lot of times you're going for the greater good. How would my family feel if my decision and how I came to my decision were posted on the internet? And that's a great question to ask yourself whenever you do anything. Is would my family respect the decision that I made and why I made that decision? Okay. And again, going back to family, hopefully that's maybe one of your values is that family and the people that have raised you or been a part of your life. But if you made that decision and had it posted up on the internet, how you made that decision, would they be okay with that? And are you okay with that being posted? That's a question that you have to ask yourself. If you can walk away saying, yes, I think they'd be proud of me for making that decision and respect me for making that decision, and I feel good about how I made that decision, then you've probably made a good, sound decision. After you've done that, sleep on it, rest on it, and then, because sometimes, particularly you make decisions late at night, they sound and seem great at that time, and then they're not so good. Okay, so sleep on it, wake up on the next morning, see if it still makes sense, see if it's still viable and a good idea in your opinion, or a good solution in your opinion. At that point, make the best decision you can, and then evaluate the decision over time. Keep track of the decision. What are the results of the decision? Are there negative repercussions? Who's most impacted? The number of people that are impacted negatively or positively. And again, if you can do all these things and go through those steps and come away with a solution that you feel good about and that's helping the vast majority of the people and stand the test of time, then you've made a good, sound decision, and this practice-based approach has worked for you. All right. We're going to build off of this and talk about some problem solving next, and look at some strategy or a strategy for problem solving, and try to put that to use. Again, all this can be kind of lumped together as you're attempting to work on that first case study and come up with your ideas for that. And I'll also talk to you about the case study so I can go over it with you before you do it, so you have some input or have a good idea what you're trying to do before you jump into it. So hope this has been helpful, and I'll jump back in here in a little bit and talk to you about some problem solving strategy. All right.